What happens when the very institutions designed to uphold justice are accused of becoming weapons in a political war? In a stunning congressional hearing, two opposing visions of America crashed head-on, revealing a nation deeply fractured. One side alleges a sinister conspiracy within the previous administration, claiming law enforcement was weaponized to hunt a political rival. The other side fires back, calling the hearing a desperate smokescreen to hide unprecedented, ongoing corruption and a flagrant abuse of power. We are left with a critical question that strikes at the heart of the Republic. Are we witnessing a genuine search for accountability? Or are we merely spectators in a high-stakes political spectacle where the truth itself is the ultimate casualty?
Try and win an election. That, too, they tried to cover up. Since I became chairman of this committee, my investigative work has exposed how weaponization was done. Look at the FBI's Arctic Frost investigation, which ultimately became one of Jack Smith's cases against President Trump, based upon records that I've made public. The case's origin was anti-Trump FBI agent Tebow and his merry band of artisans and partisans. The records indicate that the opening of Arctic Frost was an intentionally designed vehicle by which the Biden administration would ultimately prosecute their primary political opponent, President Trump. Then I made emails public relating to the Biden administration's political investigation into Peter Navarro, Tebow, and his other anti-Trump agent, Walter Giardina, were also involved in that case. Whistleblowers have told me that Special Agent Giardina openly stated his desire to investigate Trump, even if it meant false predication. Whistleblowers have also told me that Jack Smith's deputy, J.P. Cooney, wanted to open more cases on Trump. He allegedly justified using compulsory process to obtain more information merely based upon partisan news outlets. And guess who was also allegedly involved in those communications? Well, that's the same person, Special Agent Walter Giardina. All of this is more evidence of law enforcement weaponization that would have never been the light of day, but for whistleblowers. I'll have more to say about this matter later today in another forum. Then we have the Biden FBI's anti-Catholic Richmond memo. That memo used the shoddy research of the radical Southern Poverty Law Center to accuse traditional Catholics of being violent extremists. Based on the records that I released the other week, there wasn't just one FBI document that used biased anti-Catholic sources, but over a dozen. And more FBI field officers were involved than we'd been led to believe. It wasn't just the Biden and Ray FBI that failed the people. Recently, I released records showing that the Biden Health and Human Services also failed to address the backlog of over 65,000 reports expressing concern for unaccompanied children. This included 7,346 reports related to trafficking. 36 cases have been accepted by U.S. attorneys for prosecution, with 11 arrests and 3 convictions so far. The Biden administration had a responsibility to do right by the American people. By any metric, they failed. The question is, what did the president actually know or even understand, and who was actually running the government? But regardless, the buck stops with the president, and President Biden will have to answer to history for what's happened the last 4 years. Now I'm going to turn over the podium to, opportunity to speak to Ranking Member Durbin for his opening remarks, and after that, Senator Cornyn is going to take the chair, and Senator Cornyn and Chairman Schmidt are going to lead the rest of the hearing. Proceed, Senator Durbin.
Thank you, Chairman Grassley. This committee has oversight responsibility over the Department of Justice, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and the Department of Homeland Security. We have a constitutional duty to hold these agencies accountable with public hearings. By this date in my first year as chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, we had already held 2 major oversight hearings with Biden administration agency heads, including one with the FBI Director Wray on domestic terrorism threats. So far this year, the Republican majority on this committee has not held a single oversight hearing, despite numerous critical challenges facing the nation that are under our jurisdiction. In the last week alone, several events have demanded this committee's immediate attention. The horrific assassination in Minnesota, the treatment of our colleague Senator Padilla by federal agents in Los Angeles, and President Trump's unprecedented deployment of the U.S. military in Los Angeles. We should hear without delay from Attorney General Bondi and FBI Director Patel about what they are doing to address the unacceptable political violence in our country, including threats to Article III judges and justices, as well as members of Congress. And we need to hear from the Homeland Security Secretary Noem about the treatment of our colleague, Senator Padilla, and this administration's mass deportation campaign against immigrants. But instead of exercising this constitutional oversight duty, my Republican colleagues are holding this hearing. Apparently, armchair diagnosing former President Biden is more important than the issues of grave concern which I have mentioned. To take a few examples of the issues this committee should be addressing, the Trump administration has removed dozens of senior career prosecutors and FBI officials with decades of national security expertise, leaving our nation more vulnerable to terrorism and other national security threats. This should be explained to this committee. The Justice Department has diverted hundreds of law enforcement agents away from combating cartels, drug trafficking, and gun violence to participate in President Trump's mass deportation campaign. This should be addressed in an open hearing of this committee. The Justice Department is also turning a blind eye to corruption. The administration has gutted the Department of Justice's Public Integrity Session, which oversees political corruption, just as the president's shameful crypto scheme unfolds. And the administration has removed Department of Justice career ethics officials and shut down the office charged with investigating misconduct by DOJ attorneys. With these internal checks gone and this committee asleep at the wheel, it's no surprise that Attorney General Bondi signed off on President Trump to accept Qatar's gift of a $400 million luxury airliner, despite the fact that the Attorney General was previously a registered foreign agent for the Qatari government. We are still waiting for her official finding on this gift transfer. And it's no surprise that Department of Justice official Emil Bove tried to strike a corrupt bargain.
The opening statements from Chairman Grassley and Ranking Member Durbin are more than just political theater. They are a masterclass in narrative warfare, revealing the deep chasms in American politics where even the concept of objective truth is contested. To understand what truly unfolded, we must dissect their arguments not just for what was said, but for how and why. Chairman Grassley positions himself as a whistleblower's champion, an investigator uncovering a hidden conspiracy. His argument is built on a foundation of alleged intent and procedural malice within the Biden administration's FBI. He names specific investigations like Arctic Frost and agents like Thibault and Gio Gardina, painting a picture of a coordinated effort to prosecute their primary political opponent. His evidence, as he presents it, comes from records that I've made public and informant testimony, framing the issue as a deep state plot that only he can expose. He even extends this narrative of failure and corruption to other agencies, citing a backlog of over 65,000 reports on unaccompanied children at HHS, including thousands related to trafficking, to portray a systemic breakdown under the previous leadership. In stark contrast, Senator Durbin executes a brilliant rhetorical pivot. He doesn't just defend against Grassley's accusations, he attacks the very legitimacy of the hearing itself. He frames it as a calculated distraction, a Republican dereliction of duty to avoid oversight of the current Trump administration's own crises. His strategy is to overwhelm with a barrage of specific, tangible, and recent allegations. He moves from the general to the brutally specific. He points to the gutting of the DOJ's public integrity section and the removal of career ethics officials, creating a narrative of an administration systematically dismantling its own internal checks and balances. The case of the Paul Walzak pardon is his rhetorical centerpiece. Durbin doesn't speak of vague conspiracies. He presents numbers. A man who withheld over $7 million in taxes, whose mother attends a $1 million a person Trump fundraiser, and who is then miraculously pardoned and no longer has to pay $4.4 million back to the taxpayers. This is a simple, powerful story of transactional corruption that is easy for any viewer to grasp. The tactical brilliance of Durbin's rebuttal culminates in turning his opponent's weapon against them. When the hearing's premise questions the cognitive ability of a former president, Durbin counters not with a defense, but with an offense. He cites Trump's recent gaffe about the UK being in the EU, and then unleashes a video montage of Trump's own incoherent statements. This move is strategically devastating because it shifts the entire frame of the debate from a serious constitutional inquiry into a pointed question of hypocrisy. The central theme that emerges is the weaponization of accountability. Both sides accuse the other of using the levers of power for political persecution. Grassley calls it weaponization of law enforcement, while Durbin points to the Justice Department diverting agents from combating cartels and gun violence to participate in a mass deportation campaign. The hearing, intended as an exercise in oversight, becomes a battlefield for competing narratives, each aimed at convincing the public that the other side represents an existential threat to American democracy. So, what is the final verdict? The hearing reveals a chilling truth that transcends partisan allegiance. It demonstrates a political environment so toxic that the vital function of congressional oversight is itself compromised, transformed from a tool for ensuring government integrity into a platform for staging political attacks. The conflict between Grassley's claims of a deep state conspiracy and Durbin's detailed accusations of present-day corruption shows that both parties are operating from entirely different realities, presenting their bases with narratives that reinforce their worldview. The ultimate casualty here is not one politician or party, but the public's trust in the very institutions designed to serve them. When justice itself is put on trial and used as a pawn in a political game, the foundation of the republic is weakened. The question is no longer just about who is telling the truth, but whether the system is still capable of finding it. What are your thoughts on this? Does this hearing represent a legitimate search for answers, or a political circus? Leave a comment below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more in-depth analysis.